Hello, my friends. Operator Starsky here. Very nice to see you as always. I hope that you're doing great, and I hope that the connection will not fail tonight because, Elon Musk and things. So tonight we're gonna talk about the former nuclear arsenal of Ukraine that was given up, that was given out, because the reason why I decided to talk about it, okay, it's when you're talking to those supporters of the Russian terrorism that want Ukrainians to die and things, they say, I don't want to spend my 80 cents a day to support Ukraine because those are my money. I don't want to support Ukraine because Ukraine did nothing for me to support Ukraine. And when you start explaining that actually Ukraine was the world's third biggest nuclear power, we had more nukes than the UK, Pakistan, India, you name it, okay? And one of the things they like to say is you could not use those nukes. You had no codes. And I cannot confirm or disconfirm this. I never touched the ICBMs, okay? But yeah, I know for sure that there are codes that you have to have, and usually the president carries some kind of briefcase. Not the president, but one of his bodyguards carries a briefcase with codes and stuff like that. So yes, there are codes. Those codes are used to give permission to launch ICBMs. And as for the ICBMs, we're talking specifically about, let me see if I can. My screen is too small. Oh my god. Okay, so we're talking about those ones. So this one is it's known in the US as SS-19, and Ukraine had 130 of those. Each missile of this type carries 6 warheads, 6 strategic warheads, and those are strategic ICBMs. They can fly from Ukraine to any part of the world. And also we're talking about those. This one is known in the NATO as SS-24, carrying 10 warheads each, okay? And Ukraine had 46 of those. So in general, Ukraine had 176 missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, that could carry 1,240 nuclear warheads, strategic nuclear warheads, in total. And yes, those ICBMs required specific code, specific permission. I heard rumors that were told by Ukrainian authorities, including our former ministers of defense and stuff like that, that yes, we had no codes. Basically, Moscow had those codes. It's a matter of a discussion how much time it would take to create or develop or change the system, because when when, for example, American supporters of the Russian terrorism say that you could not use those missiles, I don't think that they would be happy with, for example, Taliban having a bunch of ICBMs that they could not use, right? Anyways, so yes, I heard rumors that there were codes, and we can talk a lot about whether we could change the system, whether we could gain the control of them. Because, for example, the missile SS-18 Satan, known in NATO as Satan, which is one of the craziest ICBMs in the world, they were designed and produced in Ukraine. We had all the technology to produce those missiles. We had all the technology to do anything. Probably we had no money to do that back in the early 90s, but still. I need a bigger screen. I cannot see what I'm... Aha, here it is. So, ICBMs of those types, they were stored and they could be launched from such launching sites, nuclear launch sites. This one is this one was destroyed. This one is located in Pervomaisk, Mykolaiv Oblast in Ukraine, and Ukraine was covered with such launch sites. We had a very, very strong and developed infrastructure with different launch sites, and those launch sites were specifically designed to launch nuclear missiles, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and things like that. And also, we had those. I think everybody knows how this vehicle is called. It's a very famous one. It's called, in the NATO terminology, this one is called Scud, and Ukraine had those as well to launch ICBMs. Currently, we have none of them, right? And the number of ICBMs, as I already said, we had 176 ICBMs in total that could be launched from Scuds and from those launch sites. But Ukraine had much more than that. So, according to different sources, for example, the Arms Control Association, Ukraine had approximately 1,900. Previously, I was talking about 16, then 1,700, but those numbers are wrong, I admit. So, according to the Arms Control Association, Ukraine had approximately 1,900 strategic warheads, strategic charges, okay, that could be used. And those charges could be delivered using, for example, Tu-95 strategic bombers that we had. We had plenty of those. And those were dropped from those bombers. Again, yeah, strategic charges, etc., etc. Yeah, they were supposed to have codes and things like that. And also we had Tu-160. Those were hypersonic bombers Strategic bombers that could deliver nuclear charges, strategic nuclear devices like bombs, like missiles and things like that. And by the way, currently Russians are using those to strike Ukraine with cruise and ballistic missiles. And according to the Budapest Memorandum, we destroyed our bombers. We not only gave up all of our nuclear arsenal, world's third biggest nuclear arsenal, because we wanted to express our peaceful intentions and things like that. And we were given security guarantees by Russia and the US. But we also disposed of our bombers. We destroyed them. And here you can see the process of disassembling, destroying Ukrainian strategic bomber back in those days. So there is one thing that I would like to share with you. Different sources claim that Ukraine could not use its strategic nuclear arsenal because it was unusable without codes and things like that. At least not in the 90s, okay? Probably later, if we had chance to improve our nuclear infrastructure, we could have opportunity to use them to defend ourselves. But no. All those sources, they claim that we couldn't use those weapons, and they give different numbers of our strategic nuclear charges. But they miss one thing, and for some reason they never mention the arsenal of tactical nukes that Ukraine had, okay? Because strategic nukes, they are used to be delivered through a big, like long range, okay, from one continent to another continent, etc. Tactical nukes that have smaller charge, like 2, 5, 10 kilotons, they could be delivered to a shorter range, and they were not as destructive as those crazy SS-19, SS-24, SS-18 Satan and things like that. They would not carry like hundreds of megatons. They would carry a couple of kilotons. So, friends, according to different sources, including Ukrainian and some international sources, Ukraine had between 2,800 and 4,200 tactical warheads. What type of warheads are we talking about? We're talking about warheads that could be delivered by, for example, Ukrainian .U missile system. That is a tactical missile system broadly used by Ukrainian army nowadays in this war, and Russians use those missiles against Ukrainian armed forces as well. Those were designed to carry tactical nuclear charges. And I'm repeating myself, but Ukraine had between 2,800 and 4,200 tactical nuclear warheads. And those warheads, my friends, don't require any type of codes, because they could be delivered even this way. This is a 152 millimeter artillery shell, and this shell is launched. There is no satellite sending a signal to this shell. There's nothing like that. It's a simple shell with a nuclear charge. And this specific shell carries, let me see, 2.5 kilotons of nuclear charge. Okay, so 152 millimeter shells are used in Sta-B. This is 152 millimeter howitzer, widely used by Ukrainian armed forces today against Russian invaders. This one is self-propelled howitzer called Sta-S. Again, it's 152 millimeter howitzer. And we had plenty of those. Those were specifically designed to, those nuclear charges were specifically designed to be shot from a simple artillery, like howitzers, right? So what we're talking about here is that Ukraine had all kinds of opportunities to defend itself. We're not talking about using nuclear devices, nuclear charges. We're not talking about shooting them, even like across the border. We're talking about being able to use them. Because how do you think if Russia, if the US or the UK had no nuclear weapons right now and they were not part of NATO, would they be attacked by Russia? Between, I don't know, 60s and 2000s. How do you think? Nuclear weapons are not a matter of... they're not designed to be used in the real life. They're designed to be used as a boogeyman, to scare other people. That is exactly what Putin does today, by the way. Every time he's threatening to, like, destroy the world and he's playing this crazy man, that is exactly what they're meant to... the way they're meant to be used, okay? This is how nuclear weapons are used. They're used to scare the living crap out of people, not to turn people into ashes. And we were talking about tactical nuclear shells, tactical like bombs and stuff like that. Yes, and James Walsh says they are political weapon, not a military weapon. Absolutely, because if they turn into a military weapon, it's a one-way ticket for everybody, and everybody knows that. Steve K. How do you say boogeyman in Ukrainian? Babaiko. Babaiko. Let me type it. Babaiko. But there's even more to this. Okay. So we saw Star and yada yada. How do you think? What is this? This, my friends, is a carried tactical nuclear device. And this specific device, I hope I'm not wrong, it was designed by the US. The UK also had them, and they were carried by small groups of the special force units, okay? Basically some trained Rambos would have a backpack. They're in like in our slang, they are called like nuclear backpacks. So a bunch of Rambos would carry such a nuclear backpack. They would install it, and those backpacks, they're called special atomic demolition munitions, or slash tactical atomic demolition munitions. Those they don't have a big nuclear charge. Okay, they're not very strong. We're not talking about 500 kilotons that can destroy the world. No, they can carry like 6 kilotons of nuclear charge. And the US and the UK, I think approximately in 60s, 70s, they developed a bunch of those. This is how this thing looks on the inside. There is a nuclear charge. There's a bunch of different equipment that is used to use this charge as a mine, or to blow it up remotely, to detonate this charge remotely, and things like that. Or time mechanism, like time mechanism. You can just set the timer and GTFO, and it will explode at any given moment. Okay. One thing you should know is that in Soviet Union, they also had carried tactical backpacks, tactical nuclear backpacks. There were approximately 250, if I'm not wrong, I think could be bigger, but there were approximately 250 tactical nuclear backpacks produced in the Soviet Union, specifically for the special forces. And there were groups of specially trained Spetsnaz, okay, special forces in Soviet Union, that carried tactical nuclear backpacks. And they looked approximately like this. So this one is, it's called RЯ-6, Ранец ядерный 6. 6 is, I believe, it's an amount of the nuclear charge, the force of the nuclear charge, meaning 6 kilotons. And little did you know that Ukraine had those as well. So Ukraine had 176 ICBMs. Ukraine had approximately 1,900, according to different sources, mainly Western sources, okay, 1,900 strategic nuclear charges. And I think that this number includes 1,200 nuclear warheads carried in those ICBMs. Strategic bombs, things like that. And between 2,800 and 4,200 tactical warheads that did not require codes. You can imagine the power, the potential that was concentrated on the Ukrainian territory, within the Ukrainian state. World's third largest nuclear power. That I cannot imagine a kamikaze that would like to attack Ukraine at that point. However, they tried. Because in 1992, the Crimean crisis started. Russians like to say that it started in 2014 because Crimeans didn't want to. I don't know. They were dreaming of joining Russia and becoming part of Russian terrorist empire. But the crisis in Crimea actually began in 1992. It began with the Black Sea Fleet because when the USSR collapsed and all of those presidents of the former USSR republics, they gathered, they talked about like different aspects of cooperation and development and yada yada. But there was one thing: there were armies stationed in different countries, and for example, in the Soviet Union, there was a habit to send people from like Eastern Soviet Union to serve on the West, and vice versa. And that's why, for example, there were Ukrainians serving on the territory of Georgia, for example. And in the 90s, my father was in the mission. He chiefed the mission to return Ukrainian soldiers who would like to pledge alliance to Ukraine from other countries like Georgia. And that's what he did in the early 90s. Meanwhile, there was a Black Sea Fleet. But according to the agreements between the former socialist republics, according to those agreements, those were territorial agreements, meaning that if those people pledge alliance to Ukraine, if they want to serve in Ukraine, they can of course return. As for the Black Sea Fleet and all other weaponry like airplanes and ships and tanks and whatever, those were left based on the territorial agreement. So if those tanks are stored in Ukraine, they will remain in Ukraine. If all that nuclear arsenal is stored in Ukraine or in Kazakhstan, they will remain in Ukraine and in Kazakhstan. That was the agreement. Same thing was with the fleet, with the Black Sea Fleet. So the Black Sea Fleet was stationed, was docked in Crimea. And in Crimea, more than 50% of people, of the local population, on the referenda, they voted to separate from the Soviet Union. They voted to separate and become a Ukrainian state. And you can Google for the results of that referenda. Basically, there is no region in Ukraine where people voted against separation from the Soviet Union, aka Russia. Okay, basically in all the oblasts of Ukraine, people voted, including in Crimea, they voted to separate from Russia because F Russia. Nobody wanted to remain part of this inhumane, totalitarian, terrorist country. That's why the Black Sea Fleet that was stationed in Crimea, according to the agreement, it was it belonged to Ukraine. Why did I switch the screen? I don't know. It belonged to Ukraine. All the people serving in this Black Sea Fleet, all the servicemen, all the sailors, they had two options: whether they could pledge alliance to Ukraine and continue serving in the Ukrainian Black Fleet, or they could just YOLO to their own country and continue serving there in their own country. Russia, Georgia, Belarus, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, whatever. You're free to go. Nobody's holding you here forcefully. You are free to go and serve, and we will help you to leave Ukraine, whatever. But if you want to continue serving, you can pledge alliance to Ukraine, and you will continue serving for the Ukrainian armed forces, the newly created armed forces that my dad actually proudly helped to create the way they are today. But because Russians traditionally give absolutely zero damns, okay, about agreements, there were two commands issued by two different presidents. Ukrainian President Kravchuk issued a command to the Black Sea Fleet regarding, like accommodation and stuff like that, stationing in the Sevastopol. At the same time, Russian President Boris Yeltsin, because like he gave no fucks about those agreements, he issued his order, his command to the Black Sea Fleet, ordering them to relocate to the Russian base, to the base located in the Russian territory. And the servicemen of the Black Sea Fleet, they were like, what should we do? We have two different presidents, one peninsula, and two different orders. What the heck, So part of those sailors, they wanted to keep serving in Ukraine. Part of those sailors, they wanted to GTFO to Russia. And part of Russian sailors, pro-Russian sailors serving in the Black Sea Fleet, they wanted to GTFO to Russia, but they wanted Crimea to be Russia, okay? Crimea to be Russia. And majority of Crimeans didn't want to be Russia. They voted on a referendum to separate from the USSR to become a part of Ukraine. So because it was a conflict situation, two presidents met. They canceled. They both canceled their previously issued orders, because even though Boris Yeltsin was a typical Russian president, he gave absolutely no damns about like agreements. The hell with them, But still, he was more like a bit more conscious than the one that they have now for almost 20 years already. And then our both presidents, they negotiated about cooperation and friendship and development and yada yada. At the same time, this conflict continued for 2 more years. Since 92, 93, 94, for 3 more years. Because there was this Russian Admiral Kasatonov. He was anti-Ukrainian fascist. He hated Ukrainians so freaking much. So he issued different orders like stealing ships. Russians would steal ship like Admiral Kuznetsov. They just GTFO'd on board of this ship at the speed of 30 knots through Bosphor, and Turkey didn't even stop them. They didn't even try. Then they've stolen a bunch of navigational equipment from Crimea, I think, and they wanted to relocate it, to smuggle it to Russia and things like that. It was crazy. They were trying to capture Ukrainian ships exactly the way it was in 2014. So it was a crazy period, but it's not all. That very moment, they started disseminating Russian passports in Crimea to people, to locals. And they started bringing more men from Russia to accommodate in Crimea. And they attempted to create this situation. Remember, we were talking about the hybrid warfare in my previous video. It was exactly like that. They tried to create a conflict, and it was, guys, it was 30 years ago, okay? They tried to create this conflict and basically create the situation that we saw in 2014. Something like that. What Ukraine does. Ukraine sends, oh my god, I think 60,000 National Guardsmen to the Crimea. And they all get stationed in the Crimean Peninsula to solve this situation. And the situation was solved. And basically the Ukrainian security service, together with Ukrainian law enforcement units like the National Guardsmen and others, they solved this situation. So why did we start talking about Crimea? Because this is connected to this person. So this man is the reason why the Soviet army was so much feared by the West. This man is, his name is Yaroslav Goroshko, and he was a hero of the Soviet army. He was the hero of the Soviet Union, basically. He was the most kick-ass Spetsnaz dude, and I'm not talking about shit like contactless sparring with Orthodox Cross and shit like that. He was legit. He was the most kick-ass Spetsnaz special force dude that you can imagine. Remember Rambo 3 when he's in Afghanistan fighting against that huge Soviet Spetsnaz dude and he kills him. So if he was fighting with this guy, I think there would be no Rambo 4, okay? Because he would kill him. So Yaroslav Goroshko became a hero in Afghanistan because there was this situation when Soviet troops were ambushed by Afghani mujahidins, by Afghani guys. They were ambushed and they asked for help, for support, and Colonel, he wasn't colonel back then, but anyways, Yaroslav Goroshko, together with his guys, they arrived to the scene, and when they approached to their guys, the guys of that Soviet army, it was back in the Soviet Union, guys, back in during that Soviet campaign in Afghanistan. They noticed that actually those are not their guys. Those are Afghani that were wearing Soviet uniforms, and they got ambushed as well. So they began hand-to-hand combat, and they killed all of those Afghani guys. This guy killed them with like knives, okay? And that's why he was awarded a title of Hero of Soviet Union. By the end of the Soviet Union's existence, when it collapsed, he was offered by the Russian KGB, GRU, whatever, command, he was offered to have a career because he finished the Academy of the Special Forces, and he was offered a career in Moscow. But what he said was something like this: F you, F Moscow, F Russia, because I was born in a Ternopil Oblast in Ukraine, and I belong to Ukraine. This is my land. So I want to continue serving in Ukraine. Approximately something like this, okay? So he returned to Ukraine, where he started forming, right, the special forces for the Ukrainian armed forces, okay? He started forming the special force units like sabotage and reconnaissance guys, like combat divers, because he had so much experience. He was like natural born freaking killer, you know, and he had all that knowledge to do that. That's why he was assigned to create special forces for Ukraine. And in the office of the Ukrainian military intelligence, there is his portrait still on the wall, because he was one of the founding fathers of the Ukrainian military intelligence. So, just let me finish real quick, like his story. Here we have, so here he's wearing a uniform of a Ukrainian captain, basically. Is that the... Yes, I think that's Ukrainian armed forces. Yeah. So he was a kick-ass guy. And the reason why I'm talking about him is because before the Ukrainian higher command, I'm talking about our president, before all that Budapest crap was signed and stuff like that, he was a person responsible for these guys. He and his guys, they were responsible for carrying and basically managing those tactical nuclear backpacks. Okay? He had no limit access to those backpacks. He had them. He owned them. Not like he stored them under his bed. But who knows? So he was managing those. And again, there is a question regarding the striped shirts. That's basically like underwear. I'm wearing the green one, but if I was like a sailor, I would wear a striped one. Or if I was a tanker, I would wear one with like black stripes. You know, it's a long tradition that comes from, like, I don't know. I don't care. We're not doing that anymore. But this guy was legit, and he was managing those backpacks. There was one very, let's say, interesting story regarding those backpacks. I'm not gonna tell it until I am a serviceman, at least. Yeah, but it's an exciting one. But the reason I decided to tell you about this man is because when I was a small kid, and we lived in a dorm at a military base in Kyiv downtown, basically. There were two very special people living in the same dorm, like across the corridor. One of them was Vitaly Klitschko, And Vitaly Klitschko has a military rank. He's a former serviceman. You probably didn't know it, but Vitaly Klitschko, he trained in the same gym where I played. Okay, and Colonel Yaroslav Goroshko. So can they dive with those no, they cannot dive with the backpacks back, because they are not designed to be dived with. So this man, he was a very close friend of my father, and we lived in the same dorm, at the same floor, basically across the corridor. His story is very much tragic, I would say, because during all those crazy events in the Crimea in 1994, and it was June, I believe it was June. During all those events, the higher command of Ukraine saw a big problem. The problem was we had to do something about the Russian hybrid warfare, even though it wasn't called a hybrid warfare, but we had to do something about it. And that's why they started training those combat divers. And because Colonel Goroshko was professional diver, professional swimmer, he was a special forces guy, like special forces god. Seriously, what flavor ICOS? It's a purple one, the purple one. Because he was so good at it, he was training and preparing the groups of Ukrainian combat divers back in 1994. During such training, and I think it was June 9th of June, because it was 2 days before this conflict in Crimea was solved. 2 days before that, only 2 days. They were training in Kiev. They were diving in Dnipro together with his guys, and they were preparing those guys. Smell my fingers. I'm not sure if it's great because my smell is effed up. That's why I don't really know. So approximately in this location in Kiev, and it's a very beautiful place. It's a district of Kiev called Podil. There is a river port, and it's a very nice place. I got my car towed away in that area. So they were diving there, near that pier, okay? And you can imagine ships docked to the pier, okay? And they were diving there and basically training. They finished training, they surfaced, they went out of water, and Colonel Goroshko told his guys that, guys, you go, okay? I will still, I will spend some time just diving and swimming just for fun, okay? And his body was found later, and officially he drowned. Professional diver and swimmer with huge military experience, he drowned. There are two things though. First thing, there was a sergeant, and basically nobody knows about it. There was a sergeant. He lived in the same apartment with Colonel Goroshko, and what he said, because when he died, he picked his body, and he was wearing his body into a uniform, to bury, to prepare it for the funeral. He said his body was beaten up so hard. He said his knife was missing, okay, and he never left without a knife. Russia, we'll talk about it. He always carried a knife. Okay, he was a Spetsnaz guy. His ribs were broken, and his fingers were broken. I don't think that Dnipro has such a powerful stream, such a powerful flow to break somebody's fingers. Okay, it's not something that you can imagine. It's not a waterfall or whatever. It's just a river. It's a calm Ukrainian river. So his fingers were broken. And another thing, that day when they were training, they noticed a small vessel that was passing their shore. And Mr. Diggs, it was 1994. And this vessel was passing the shore, and someone on this small ship was recording everybody. That's what they noticed. And until this day, nobody knew about those two things, basically. I learned them from actual people who were there. So this is the story. I hope that you liked it. And whenever those Putin's supporters or haters of Ukraine tell you about Ukraine had no opportunity, no ability to use nuclear weapons, you can tell them that they should finish school in the first place, do their home task, grow up, and then talk about serious stuff, because this is the real picture. And I hope that, yes, Vічна пам'ять, eternal glory to Yaroslav Goroshko. He was a legendary person, actually. I wish we could talk more about such people, because he's inspiring. He's one of the he's the best breed. He's the best breed of Ukrainian people. And Russians despise, they hated him so much, because when all this crap in Crimea started, he said, F Russia, I will fight against you guys. You have no idea what you're dealing with. I will fight against you, because Ukraine is my land. I was born here. I am a Ukrainian. And they were like, why are you so aggressive towards us, idiots? Crimea, GTFO, right now, okay? Crimea is Ukraine. And yes, he was a patriot. I'm not sure that there is a level 70. I'm not sure that there's a brigade called after Goroshko, but my dad said good night. Okay. I'm not sure that there is. I hope there is. I'm very sorry. I'm not following all the brigades named after our heroes, because we have so many heroes right now. That's why, the very reason I decided to talk about it is because Russia continues this hybrid warfare, this informational campaign, bullshitting people into believing that Ukraine did nothing to deserve to be supported. Ukraine gave up the world's third largest nuclear arsenal, and in return of that, it was promised security guarantees. This was our decision. And in the early 90s, because those ICBMs, the coordinates for those ICBMs, they cannot be changed. They are pre-programmed. And obviously, those ICBMs, they were aimed at the US. I believe so. That's why we were eager to give them out, because this is what we received from the Soviet Union, but we didn't want to target the US. It was crazy. So we gave up all that in return for security guarantees from the US, from Russia, and the very fact that so many of my friends died last year, and this year too, proves that those security guarantees didn't work. Okay, guys, I'm ready to answer your questions if you happen to have those. Okay, my good friend says, as a former CDN combat diver, I would have been proud to meet that man. Sounds like he was a true legend. I can tell you that I'm so proud that I still remember him, even though I was a small boy. I had long curly hair. I was riding my bicycle like crazy and making local girls very, very unhappy. But I was so proud that I had a chance to meet such people. There was a moment my dad was discussing something with his colleague. I think it was Officer Nidzelsky. Yeah, I still remember his last name. So they were discussing something, and Nidzelsky is a very he's like another legendary person. Okay, and they talked about something. I was drawing some crazy stuff because I was a kid. I was drawing something on a piece of paper. And then another officer came in, and he was waiting for those officers to finish talking. So he was sitting there drawing something with me together. Okay, and I was showing him how to draw soldiers properly and tanks and airplanes. And of course, if I was a bit more older, maybe, I would know that this was Vitaly Klitschko. But I didn't know that. I would obviously ask for him to sign something, Okay, weird guy. How do you respond to talking heads who say that Ukraine shoots too much ammo frivolously? So the very easy answer to that is that Russians lost how many? 160,000 already. That is the answer. Okay. If they want to say that we are shooting so much ammo, tell them that there are 400,000 Russian men right now on the territory of Ukraine, and we need them eliminated. That's why we do what we do. Christina, cherry vareniki. I love you, Christina. Cherry vareniki is something that you should try. Did your dad ever get to go to the big over horizon radar that was near Chernobyl? Elvin Archer, yes, he did, and basically he knows Chernobyl very well because he spent two deployments in a row in Chernobyl. Do you think Ukraine has the best gas station hot dogs in the world? I believe so. Not like I am freaking 100% sure that we have the best hot dogs, the best gas station hot dogs in the world. Especially Okko and, my god, the other one, I'm never fueling there, but I always go and VOG, WOG. I always stop there to buy a hot dog. Trine, do you still enjoy drawing now? I do sometimes. Level 70, when are you going on training? I literally returned from the training camp. Just like today. BLG, it's better to expand artillery and rockets than waste needlessly the UA troops. Absolutely. That's awesome. Russian woodpecker really annoyed the radio hams in the west for jamming HF frequencies. Yeah. This thing is enormous. Like, it's huge. And a lot of my friends were there, by the way. I never had a chance to visit it, but it's still there. Hopefully after the war is finished, you will be able to arrive to Ukraine and visit this place. What flavor is your whey puffer? Evelyn, a couple of years ago I contracted COVID, and since that time everything smells weird to me. I'm not even sure how my perfumes smell, because my previous perfumes were given to me by my ex, and they didn't smell good to me, so I decided to change them, and I found some perfumes that don't stink, okay? And I don't even know how they smell to you. So I cannot even tell how my ICAS smells. Tracy Bradshaw, do you feel secure in the continued support of NATO? We do, and what we see, and because it's a tendency, what we see is that the US are very, very dedicated to helping Ukraine, to continue supporting Ukraine, and not only the US, also our UK brothers and sisters and other NATO members that help us, because they are dedicated to this idea that this time Putin must lose. There's no way back. There's no change of plans. He must lose. And because Putin can see that, he does everything to shape people's opinion on the West, using all kinds of resources he has. Luckily to us, he doesn't have as many resources as previously to influence people's minds, but he can still do that. That's why it's dangerous. Guy L, didn't the money spent on the country instead of maintaining nukes every year been the better choice? Uh, we had no money back in the 90s. We were very, very poor. The post-Soviet space in the 90s, it was like a Wild West. We were so poor, the mafia was so strong and so widespread and yada yada. I'm not sure how we survived through the crazy 90s, but I completely agree with you. Maintaining nukes would eat hilarious amount of money, like crazy. Uh, yes, we could leave some 200 tactical nuclear shells and backpacks and be sure that no crazy Russian terrorist would decide to attack us. That would be wise. But we decided to give it out, just everything, because we thought that superpowers like the US, the UK, and Russia would guarantee us security, safety, peace, and things like that. And we lost Crimea and big chunk of our territory as a result of that, and numerous people, including my friends. Was there a Ukrainian mafia or a Russian mafia in Ukraine in the 90s? I can talk a lot about mafia in the 90s. So there were a lot of them. Okay, there were influences from like Georgia, Georgian mafia, because prior to Mikhail Saakashvili, who eliminated mafia in Georgia, they were the most kick-ass mafiosi in the post-Soviet Union, the post-Soviet space. So Russian mafia was crazy. On the second place, there was Donetsk mafia, and Donetsk, I mean, like Donbass, part of Ukraine. And there were Georgians, Georgian mafia. Those were crazy people. But every gangster, I hope that there are no gangsters in our community, right? But if there are gangsters among us, guys, your life will not end in a good way. Trust me, because I lived in a sketchy part of Kiev. Those who know about Rimbaza, locals, they know what I'm talking about. Basically, it was like Harlem, but multiplied by 10. And I saw how all the gangsters, how they go away. Okay, it's not something that, it's not the way you want your life to end. Trust me. Um, what about broadcasting from a Crimean beach this summer? I would love it. Absolutely. I have a flag given to me by Crimean Tatars. Actually, I still keep it. And I promised them that I will bring it back to Crimea and install it back where it belongs. Starsky, would you support Boris Johnson for NATO commander? Um, why not? On the other hand, though, I think that uh, like a military person must be a NATO commander. I I don't really know. If he's gonna throw some kick-ass parties for the personnel, I would vote for him. Absolutely. try and went to school with some creeps, crisps, bloods types. Yeah, I've heard about those. We had something like that in Kiev. So back in the 90s, different districts of Kiev would fight against each other. Also, for example, if you like metal, you had to fight against people who liked hip hop. You had to. If you liked pop music, you had to fight against people who liked like trance. Okay, I don't know how to explain that, but I'm happy that we had such bands emerging as Limp Bizkit, for example, that united like hip hop and metal and stuff like that. Otherwise, we would just kill each other. It was so stupid, but we were all teenagers and we did crazy things. Why? Lisa, I've no idea why. It was just like that. For the reason I cannot explain. What is the best beer? What is the best beer in Ukraine? I wish I could tell you that because I don't remember when I had it for the last time. But something you will not like. You cannot go wrong with like Stella or Corona or Guinness. Was the best beer in Ukraine is Guinness, but actually we have a lot of good beer. Chernihievskaya, Lvivskaya, Obolon. We have a lot of craft beer, by the way. Cypress Hill. Oh yeah, I love Cypress Hill. Uh, Obolon, yeah, Obolon it's not bad. Spaceman on Earth. Trance is good. Metalheads did no raves. Um, it was like this. Metalheads would despise other kinds of music. I remember when I was like back in my 20s, when I was making some kind of industrial stuff, okay, like metal, but industrial metal. There were people who would say like, "You're using electronics for playing metal. You're not canon, okay? You're not real. You're not true." So it was kind of funny and naive and things like that. Kevin McCormick, what is the Ukrainian music scene like? So currently we have so many awesome bands that I just cannot list all of them. Like whatever you like. If you like some nice metalcore, try Hell On, try White Ward, try Space of Variations, Ginger, through JJ Ginger. If you like rock alternative, popular rock, try Hard Kiss. Those are awesome. We have so many awesome bands, and a lot of them are basically very, very popular on the West already. And my favorite guys, Space of Variations, they are already touring in the US. I'm subscribed to their channel, and they're touring there. The Prodigy was an awesome group. Oh yeah, Silver was amazing. He was crazy in the best way possible. Regarding music, so We were so like undereducated and naive back then. I remember that uh, one time I went to this rock shop. If you wanted to find some music you liked, you would have to. You couldn't just go to a store and find a tape. We had like tapes and CDs with music you liked. You have to find some place, some specific place. So there were a couple of rock shops in Ukraine, in Kiev. So I went there and I wanted to find something punk, okay, some punk rock, and I was like, "Do you have some punk?" And the dude was like, "Yeah, sure, try that one called Daft Punk." And I'm like, "Oh, Daft Punk, that must be some kick-ass punk music." What can I say? But this is how I learned other genres and styles, and yeah. Okay, did all the nuclear backpacks go back to Russia too? Roger, unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, all of them were given out. Um, what is your opinion about cannabis? What do you prefer, cannabis or alcohol? Not like I never tried, but I have some weird reaction because I start vomiting until I'm dead. So I don't prefer neither one. Uh, One time I visited, and it was years ago, I visited Bogdan in Chernihiv, and I was waiting for him in the pub, and I decided to order a beer. I recalled that years ago I had like Stella Artois, so and I liked it, so I ordered Stella Artois, and prior to that moment, I spent almost 2 years without drinking completely anything. Okay, uh, and I ordered beer. I took a sip and I was like, tastes good. I mean, why did I avoid it? Like, it was stupid. So I took one beer, second beer, and by the time the uh, by the time the Bogdan arrived, I felt well. I felt happy. I don't remember how this evening finished, but I felt really, really bad the next day. Ukraine-Russia war. Operator Starsky, how come you still refer to yourself as Operator Starsky when you have been promoted? It's a good question, buddy. I think that I have to change the name of my channel to Captain Fudge, because nobody cares about me. Usually people come to my channel to see Fudge. Yeah, so is the secret underground bar in Kiev still open where they have their own beer and a secret password? There's a lot of those. Maybe it's a legit secret underground bar, because I don't remember about this specific one. What YouTube Ukrainian news program do you recommend? Tracy, I watch all of those, including, unfortunately, Russian media, because I need to know the messages they are producing and the way they change over time. Missile Silo, I cannot take 24 hours without drinking. I trust you, and Even though I'm sober for like more than a year already, but I still have this mentality of a drinker, of a happy drinking person. That's why I completely understand you. Um, Introverts do better on alcohol. Weed is just more of the same. I I think so. Uh, Literally, like weed in di- weed in different countries is a driver for corruption because it gives corrupted people opportunity to raise money, to control the drug circulation on streets and things like that. So we need less corruption and more education for people. Tobias Reaper, don't be stupid, drink beer. Message of the day. Not before the war is finished. But after that, you will not recognize me, guys. Um, are you a NAFO fella? Aaron, I'm not a NAFO fella yet. But deep in my heart, I am. Bograch or Borsch? HLP, I prefer Borsch. Bograch is not bad, and actually I know a good place on the western Ukraine where they cook great. Oh my God, we started speaking about food again. Where they cook great Bograch, and not only Bograch, they cook plenty of things. That's where I learned how to cook the Tatar steak. And Tatar steak is basically a raw meat, absolutely raw meat, that is grinded into a paste. And you add multiple spices and egg and ketchup and onion and garlic to this. So, like, even if there are passengers in that meat, they will die. And it's phenomenal. It's if you want to test yourself, whether you have guts or not really, you gotta try a Tatar steak. Lisa says NAFO 69th Sniffing Brigade. 69 69th Brigade. Oh my god. What career will you enter after the war? I will become a happy drinker, probably. I don't know. Should I promise not to offer you alcohol, only pasta and coffee, maybe tea? You can order me alcohol, but offer me alcohol only after the war is finished, not before that. Have you talked about the Reaper drone Russia took down yet? I read Russia actually wants to salvage it. Tobias, what I've heard was that Russia actually did that they already took parts of it, at least. Not sure, though, if it will give them something, unless they can salvage some microchips out of this drone and use it to build like 10 missiles. But I doubt that they will be able to copy it, but they will not be able to produce it. Okay, Lars, I love Tatar steak. Okay, we have heroes here among us. And is Georgie doing okay? Georgie, yes. So Georgie from Ukraine Matters acquired COVID, and unfortunately, he's isolated. Uh, Greece. Have you ever visited Greece? I didn't, but I would love to. Uh, I love all kinds of history. So if you want to get rid of me, bring me to a museum, and I will spend there like the whole week. I will be living there. In Ukraine, we have in Kiev we have the historic museum that has like 4 floors. It's a huge building where you can find all kinds of stuff, starting from like cave people and until the modern history of Ukraine. And I every time I visit this museum, I spend like the whole day there. So same with the Greece. When I was in Turkey, I believe, back in 2009 maybe, there were those old Greek ruins in my area, and I was just enjoying, even though it was like plus 50 Celsius outside. I was enjoying. I felt like home. I had so many flashbacks there in that amphitheater. What's the best beach in Crimea for a beer with Zelensky? I would say Alushta. You gotta visit Alushta, definitely. I don't know if they serve beer in museums. I think they do, but it's a very, very old beer. Um, Spaceman on Earth. Ukraine Matters has a COVID now. Yes, it's true. He showed this like test, okay, on his page, and it looked like pregnancy test, and there were like 2 stripes. And I joked because first of all I was happy. I felt happy for him because I thought like, dude, like no way, good news, great news. So I congratulated him, and I threw this old joke like 2 stripes stand for uh, corporal, right? Then I realized that it's actually a COVID test. So yeah, I screwed up a bit. But yeah, unfortunately, he has COVID. I hope that he will get better soon. Jonathan, any update on the cleanup at Hostomel Airport? Let me see if I even have some recent pictures for you. I hope I do. Those are from not really, unfortunately. So the main task, the main goal of Antonov Airlines right now is to restore everything that was destroyed in Hostomel. And basically they're trying to restore their infrastructure. I'm talking on behalf of Antonov, even though I have no right to do that, but basically that's what they told me. They're trying to restore everything, and it's more or less clean. It's you can still find some Russians there, okay, but you will need a shovel for that. But other than that, it's more or less fine. Michael, do you think Ukraine will have a space program after the war? So Ukraine already has a space program. We have this platform. We had that platform in the Black Sea where we used to launch our Proton missiles, delivering satellites for the European Union, and we had some kick-ass space technologies. We had astronauts traveling to the International Space Station and things like that. So our space program will continue existing and developing after the war, of course. Tyler, did you get less snow than you usually get this year? It's I don't know how to tell you what is usual already, because of the climate change, it's very hard to predict the weather, and it's really hard to understand what kind of weather we need to see this month. Okay, personally, I enjoy having zero snow. Today we had like something like plus 10, plus 13 Celsius, sunny weather, warm weather. I visited my hometown. I haven't been there for like 10 years maybe, and it was sunny, it was good, and I enjoy this weather actually. I like when it's warm, but usually in March and until April we used to have snow in Ukraine. But again, Ukrainian climate is very, very mild. It's an average climate, climate that you will enjoy. So, how to properly pronounce your first name? It's Andriy. No idea why we transliterate it like this, but it's Andriy. Last letter is like Y in Yankee, Andriy. Lisbeth, surely not the runway. Yes, runway will not be repaired anytime soon. Snow chains, UK has all your snow. Could be. I think that our weather and by the way, from what I know, usually it's not snowing much in the UK, right? Usually it's warm because of Gulf Stream, like rains, yes, but snow not so much. Tony, any chance you coming to the UK? I swear I will. The UK is a place that I should visit definitely. I gotta do like pub crawling in London, definitely. Glasgow. I don't know. It was a wet green winter here, fighting Finn. Something like we had snow in Ukraine, and specifically here in Hostomel, we're surrounded by fields. We always have that crazy wind, and it's colder than in Kiev usually. But today it was fine, and I like it to be that way. Hoobs, no snow here, up north Scotland maybe. Yeah. On the other hand, again, the Gulf Stream that protects you from the snow. Halichanka, my little one is Andriy. He looked when you said the name. Андрію, великі вітання тобі з Гостомеля. І велике вітання від всіх наших друзів, які нас зараз дивляться. Can you tell us a little about your life when you worked in the New York City? Denise, I worked in Washington, D.C. When I worked in the World Bank group. I was in the external affairs team in Kiev that was responsible for our operations in Ukraine, Belarus, and Moldova. And I spent some time in Washington, D.C. working there. We had huge communication meeting in the World Bank in the central office, and again, I spent all my time just surfing through museums in the Washington D.C. There's a lot of those museums of spies, special services, like secret services, Smithsonian Air and Space Museum. It's a crazy place. I spent like 3 days there. I would wake up in the morning, go to this museum, return late in the evening, and next morning I would go there again. It's a crazy place. And as for the World Bank, we had this. Wait a minute. We had this communication meeting. One of the things that I remember clearly was the master class of Mr. Clay Shirky, who was explaining about the modern social media. Guys, it was back in 2008, and we were already discussing about like Web 2.0, about future of the social media, about social media that will produce content instead of people, but for people. So basically everything that we see today related to the neural networks and artificial intelligence, we were talking about it like 14 years ago. It was awesome. And Mr. Clay Shirky wrote this beautiful book called Here Comes Everybody. Yeah. I failed to get one copy, and it's pretty much outdated already, I think. But maybe sometimes I will read some of his books. Louvre in Paris. Oh yeah. If I'm in Paris, you will find me there. What do you think is the probability of a nuclear holocaust? I think the probability of a nuclear holocaust is very, very low, because nuclear weapons are not used to kill people. They're used to scare the crap out of people. And the Smithsonian Museum is awesome. I bought all kinds of souvenirs. I bought everything they had, and I gave it out to my friends. Do you have friends in Belarus? I have friends from Belarus, not in Belarus, but I do have a bunch of those. Rhonda, how many beers have you been offered in the last 12 months? I was offered beer, but I never had a beer in the past 12 months. Jesse James, no such thing as a tactical nuke. They're all strategic. I don't... modern warfare has 3 levels. Is a strategic level, operational level, and tactical level. Tactical nukes are used on a tactical level to improve your operational situation. And basically you can shoot a smaller tactical nuke using a howitzer at a range between 6,000 and 24,000 meters, which is roughly between 4 and 15 miles, if we're talking about the Ukrainian howitzer Msta, that is used to that can deliver such shells. And yeah, and you. But on the other hand, you are right, because informationally, it's a strategic weapon. You're absolutely right here. Connie Jensen, so nice to see you. You were missed. Likewise, I missed you so much, guys. Those past 2 weeks, they were crazy. I had so many tasks, so many military boring duties, but there were so many of them, and unfortunately, I could not even afford to have a stream. Agata, you mean I never took any of those offers? Yeah, basically, because until the war is finished, I'm not gonna drink or do other crazy stuff. Just me, operator Starsky. Don't forget, you have to visit Cardiff too. I really do, because I need to understand like what makes it so special in terms of Russian propaganda. Why Russia likes to pick Cardiff to produce all that BS that they're doing. Maybe I'm missing something. Why Cardiff? Don't know. What is your favorite Ukrainian chicken dish? Brenda, it's Kiev chicken. It's awesome. You gotta try one. Christina, love snow and rain. Because I spent most of my deployments in snow and rain, and majority of chronic diseases that I acquired were acquired in snow and rain. I don't like those. Is Starlink still up? I think if you can see me, it is. At least if you can hear me. It is. Wales is a god's country. I gotta visit it, and then I will either confirm or disconfirm it. But I suspect that you are right. Marcus, if I could choose, I would ride my way out like Kong on an atom bomb. Harry, can you let us know what is average normal day for you? What do you do daily? Harry, it's like monitoring of different news sources, meeting journalists, talking to them, explaining them the same story for 2052nd time, or coordinating interviews with my guys. Some journalists want to make a report about the Offensive National Guard, Advancing National Guard. Anyways, the assault brigades that are being formed right now, and I have to coordinate them and the possibility for them to make this report, and things like that. And also because I have some experience, in like ideological work, internal ideological work, basically to entertain our guys. So sometimes I'm involved into creating some history or mythology of our brigade, because we have a memorial dedicated to our fallen comrades that were killed in 2019. And I helped design this stuff, and we also involve other creative guys who can help us to do things like that, basically. Some music, etc., etc. I was writing the march for my brigade actually the other day, but uh, my commander said that he doesn't like it, and I don't blame him because it sucks. I honestly think so. But at the same time, I liked working with like symphonic instruments and symphonic music. It rules. I love it. Why hasn't Putin been erased yet? My colleague Captain Paul Aidman asking for a friend. Why he's not erased yet is because he's hiding in a bunker surrounded by loyal bodyguards and loyal people who are too scared to do that. But we will see. For some reason, I think that people like Putin don't die naturally. Something tells me. History, probably. Joe Perkovsky, Starsky, where in Kiev has the best dumplings and pierogies? So we have Домашня кухня, we have Puzata Chata. Those are places where you may find some good dumplings and pierogi. We also have this restaurant called Pervak. It's in the Kiev downtown. They make beautiful borscht with pampushkas. I think you will like it. Yeah. Is Kiev preparing for a wave of tourism after the war? Yeah, I'm preparing my liver because I will have to drink with all of you, my friends. Richard, are Wagner and Patriot PMC prisoners traded back to Russia, or do they go to prison? It depends whether Russia wants them back. Big time. Because there are prisoners like Russian conscripts, Russian pilots. Those are valuable people for Russians. That's why they want them back all the time. Then Kadyrovites. For some reason, Kadyrovites are very, very valuable for them. So we traded one Kadyrovite for a bunch of our POWs one time. As for Wagnerites, well, if it's a former convict, basically what he did was he changed Russian prison to Ukrainian prison. Nothing changed much in his life. And Russians don't really want such people back. Fat bass. But the truth is that nukes are really designed for deterrence. Might be different if Iran gets them, though. I totally agree. I totally agree on that. Eliana, Starsky, have you ever listened to Sisters of Mercy? I don't think so, but I will check them out. Jill, do you have Russian friends? Has the war changed your perspective on them? Do you still communicate with them? Jill, it looks like this. I have Russian friends. They all live in Ukraine. Maybe two people live in Russia, but like on the far east, far north, somewhere there. Majority of my Russian friends, they are all here right now. They are either fighting or supporting our army as much as they can. Everybody else, there is absolutely no point in like talking to them. That they're hopeless. Unfortunately, they are hopeless, and the reason for that is because the other day I saw that. Actually, it was today. I think I saw that video of Paul Massaro. His recent video, you gotta check it out on his channel. He interviewed a former CIA serviceman, and they were talking on why the US got Russians wrong, like why they misunderstood the Russian mind. And this gentleman from the CIA, he said very wise thing. He said, if you want to learn about Russians, you gotta go to a library, find a book about Russia dating back like 19th, 18th, 17th century. You gotta read it and you will know everything you need to know about Russia. Nothing changed. That's why I believe they're hopeless, because this is how they were raised, unfortunately. Dachan Rider, would you agree that the perfect and largest military operation would be disarming Russia's nukes? Yeah, I agree on that. I can say that it's one of our priorities, probably, in the upcoming years. Seen photos posted online people have taken in the forest outside of Kiev. I love forests. We have so many forests here. Ukraine is a green land because we have like forests, rivers, mountains, deserts, by the way. What else? Are you, John Smith, are you finding American mercenaries on the Russian side? Of course they are there, but of course they are scarce. They are not numerous. There were American mercenaries even in like 2015, prior to the full-scale invasion. Most notable of them were Patrick Lancaster, even though he was not a military mercenary, but he was informational mercenary. There was like a couple of dudes from the US that arrived to Donbass to fight against Ukrainian armed forces. But as Carl Pilkington likes to say, there's always plenty of nutters out there. What would this war have been like if Starlink didn't exist? I think I would not be able to communicate with you right now. On the other hand, no, I don't think so. I would find a way. I'm not using high-speed internet, even though I can. I can have like optical cable installed, but I'm not doing that because I have Starlink, and I literally don't want to pay to multiple internet providers, because I always forget whom I need to pay for this or that service, and there's a lot of them doing the same thing and providing the same internet. So I decided, okay, I will just have Starlink and I will only use the Starlink. On the other hand, though, the upload speed of Starlink is horrifying. Are you going to help get Yuri a Bradley when he gets back? If he's in my brigade, I will do everything I can. Um, Mr. T, we've got surstroming. I know what you're talking about. Uh, we've got surstroming and Kraftskiva parties ready for you after Ukraine kicks Moscovia out. One thing I should do in my life is try surstroming. Definitely. Daughter of Texas, did you see that Delhi audience in India laugh at Lavrov's reason why they attacked Ukraine? Oh yeah, I enjoyed it. Basically, it was during the G20 summit, and Lavrov was like, we did everything to avoid the war, but Ukraine wanted to destroy us. And everybody was like, what the hell are you talking about? You stupid, depressed horse. Kadyrov's human zoo. I've heard about it, but I'm not sure if it's. But I definitely heard about it. Have you tried toad? Like the frog's legs? I did. They are amazing with garlic sauce. That's exactly what can make me happy. Um, what screams? Don't. I have to. I have to. I promised. I have to do that. I mean, at least once in my lifetime, I have to try. Just me. I love that you like Carl Pilkington. He's a national treasure. Um, Idiot abroad. So actually, I learned about Carl Pilkington due to you guys. I never knew about him. I knew about Ricky Gervais. He's freaking awesome, and I remember Gervais from like GTA, Grand Theft Auto 4. But later I learned about Carl from you, and he's amazing. Uh, okay, mutant. Bad time for me. Stay safe and Slava Ukraine. Good night, and be safe, my friend. Um, frog legs taste like chicken. They taste a bit like chicken, but with this small subtle flavor of a reptile. Uh, Amphibious. I'm sorry. Um, amphibians. I subscribe to this awesome channel ran by a an employee of a Chicago National Natural Museum or something like that, called Odd Creatures something, or Odd Animals. You gotta check it out. Vlad, when Ukraine wins the war, do you think Russia as a nation will collapse? If so, do you think it will make things more dangerous in the region? Slava Ukraini. Героям слава, Vlad. I think that when Ukraine wins the war, Russia will not collapse as a nation, but it will collapse. It may collapse into different nations. The reason is their mentality, obviously, because they have this ultra conservative mentality, and that is the reason why it may collapse into different nations. Will it make things more dangerous? I don't think so. Of course, the biggest danger will be having multiple countries armed with freaking nukes that will be dangerous, and that is something that we should be prepared for. But again, countries are usually not ruled by morons. Usually, okay? We're not talking about Russia or North Korea. Usually they are not ruled by morons. Usually they are ruled by people who understand at least basics of economics and diplomatic relations, and they understand that if you want to end up like North Korea, you can just keep stuff like nukes and get isolated and die in poverty and shit. But if you want to progress, to develop, to have better future, better services, better everything, better technologies, you have to trade to people. And in order to prove that you're worth trading with them, you have to prove that you are a sane person, that you are trustworthy, and things like that. The biggest problem, the biggest mistake the West did back in the early 90s was that when the USSR collapsed, they thought that Russians will easily become part of Western society, and that's why America did a lot to bring Russia to like G20, G8, to all the international institutions, and they were trading with them and stuff. At the same time, Russians kept saying what they're saying today. They kept saying that West must be destroyed, gay Europa, perverts, and things like that. Ruski world. They kept saying that since, I don't know, like 90s. And the West thought, okay, we will give them a chance. We will trade with them. We will bring international transnational corporations and things like that, and this will make them better people. But what they actually did, they brought them technologies that let them build thousands of cruise and ballistic missiles used to bomb Ukraine today. That's all. Didn't Putin ask to join NATO in 2003? So Putin's strategy was to remember I told you that 90s in the post-Soviet space, it was like a crazy time. Economic crisis, like mafia, like poverty, incredible poverty everywhere. Georgia, Russia, Ukraine, Belarus. It was a crazy time, and people hate it. It's like, would you like to return to the times of a Great Depression? I highly doubt that. Same with the 90s in the post-Soviet space. People don't want to return to 90s. And Putin based all of his strategy of communicating with his audience on promises that they will never return to the 90s. And that is exactly what he did. It took him like one invasion in Ukraine to start returning to the 90s. Same stuff. Isolation, poverty, majority of Russians don't have inside toilets, okay? They have outhouses. Everybody knows that. They already have poverty. But things will only get worse for people who at least have something, okay? Have some money, wealth, okay? So it took him one invasion to start this process of going down, drowning. Would you rather? My God, would you rather Zelensky's victory parade will be in Kiev or in Sevastopol? Um, I think Zelensky's victory parade must be held in Moscow. Awful place though. How about elk shashlik? I love shashlik. Never tried elk shashlik, but something I should try. Because I'm a Ukrainian, I like pork shashlik because when this salo, when this fat part of meat, when it's melting, and it makes this meat so like juicy and tasty and oh my god, Ukrainians are crazy about eating pork. That is what I was going to say about the parade. Yeah, I've been to Moscow in 2012. We had another communicate. I worked at a TV channel, and I had a business trip to Moscow. We had this communication workshop or masterclass with different representatives of like Russian Sberbank, representatives of their social media and their marketing managers and yada yada. It was really boring, but for some reason my bosses thought that we could learn something from them. Uh, I suspect my boss was right though, because Russians are interesting to study in terms of their mind games. You know, their like propaganda, PR, and all the technologies used to shape public opinion. That is something that we need to study, definitely. They have huge experience in that. They spent centuries developing those things, developing propaganda. So they're interesting in this regard. But if you want to study PR, okay, public relations, the art of communicating with people, you gotta go to the US and the UK. Um, what is your opinion on the Patron the Dog cartoon? I haven't seen that cartoon, even though I heard about it. I gotta check it out. Um, Tone Ottesen, is Ukrainian food fat? Some of our food is fat. Remember, I was talking about like I was boasting that Ukrainian cuisine is so rich and yada yada. Um, Ukrainian cuisine is rich, but what makes it tasty is the technology that is used to produce food in general. And I'm not only talking about like national cuisine, national dishes like borscht or holubtsi or vareniki or whatever. I'm talking about usual stuff like sausages, like different dumplings, like you know, uh, bacon, yogurts. For some reason, they taste very natural and good, and all of the people who come to Ukraine, they agree that comparing to other places they've been to, food in Ukraine is awesome. So if you like fat food, you will find it. If you want something like some veggies, something vegetarian or vegan, you can find that as well in Ukraine. But if we are talking about like family gathering, or like visiting your grandma, your babusia, and in Ukraine it's not babushka, it's babusia. So if you're visiting your babusia, you should be prepared to gain like 2 kilos in a single evening, because first thing she will tell you is that you look too thin. You have to eat more, and even if you look like a freaking Schwarzenegger, okay? She will be like, why do you look so thin? Don't you eat? Here, have some borscht, salo, pampushki, have some dumplings, vareniki, kravyanka sausage, holubtsi, holodets, and you find yourself being just unable to stand up, to leave this place for your life. So Ukrainian babusias are awesome, and I remember my bro, okay? He's a big guy in general, but when we were teenagers, he was big when we were teenagers, but I remember every time he would go to our village to visit our babusia, in a week or in a month he would return like round. Okay, and so traditionally what we do is, we like, maybe not like fat food, but food that makes you full. And the reason for that is our history, because Ukraine survived artificial famine actually there were 3 artificial famines. The one that we survived through, which is known, okay, is Holodomor, 1932-1933. It's when Russian Red Army that occupied Ukraine, they forbid Ukrainians from taking grain from the fields. They were confiscating bread and food and stuff. That's why millions of Ukrainians died. Of course, until today, Russians claim that it was a natural disaster, even though it was like proved like 1 million times already. There are like documents signed by Dzerzhinsky and yada yada. But because we still have this trauma, nationwide trauma, that is the reason why we use not to throw away food leftovers and things like that. We try to eat everything. So that's the reason. Can you be a babusia without grandkids? Babusia means grandmother. Elizabeth, babusia means either a grandmother, like for example my grandmother, or also babusia means a lady of an old age, and it's like a the way to call this person like in a mild way, you know. Usually you call other people, like if I was a kid, okay, I would be allowed to come up to an older lady and say "Добрий день, бабусю," or like "Good day, babusia," you know. If I was older, like my age now, I would consider it being a bit not polite. Okay, but if I was a kid, I would be totally allowed to do that. But yeah, Babusia is basically either a grandma. I can call my grandma Babusia. Uh, Smaller kids can call other older ladies that shouldn't be their grandmas, but they can call them Babusias as well. Uh, when you're on a street somewhere with your kid, for example, you can tell your kid, look at that Babusia. It's normal thing. But calling somebody, I can speak to my friend, older lady, and say, you are Babusa of 3 grandkids. That's also normal. Babusa means granny. Yeah, absolutely, Dennis. What is an old cat lady in Ukraine? Old cat lady. Old cat lady. I don't know. Maybe I misunderstood you. Yes, Mark says auntie is Titka. And on the western Ukraine, they call them teta. Oh, old lady with a bunch of cats. I don't think we have some specific name for old ladies with cats. They don't exist in our folklore, okay? I mean, physically they exist, but not in our folklore. Is sour cream with fruit salad unique to Ukraine? James, sour cream is consumed with anything in Ukraine. So it's absolutely normal if you have like bananas and kiwi and apples and orange, and you just drown everything in sour cream. It's absolutely normal. HLP, what's the best place to ski in Ukraine? I think Bukovel. It's West Ukraine. Babushka is a grandmama. Babushka, April, is Russian way to call Babusia, okay? Babushka is Russian version of grandma, granny, okay? In Ukraine, it's Babusia. Babushka sounds funny, yeah, I agree on that, but Babusia sounds more loved because Ukrainian language likes to make things like tinier, cuter, and more loved. Okay, it's a crazy thing. In Ukrainian national anthem, we have this line: "Our enemies will dissolve like the dew on the sun." Згинуть наші вороженьки, як роса на сонці. The enemies, the word enemies, we can call it, we can say it in several ways. We can say вороги, enemies, or we can say воріженьки, which means our tiny little cute enemies that we love with all our heart. Like, you know, like you can say Alexander, or you can call this person Sasha. It's tinier, it's smaller. You can say like, I don't know, Natalia and Natasha. Natasha makes this name smaller and cuter and more loved. For some crazy reason, we have that even for our enemies. Is Granddad Dadusa? No, Gabby. Granddad is Didus. Oh, Commander 401. In America, a Jewish grandma is called Bobby. Hmm. Yeah, it's very similar. Alexandra, Babunya. Yeah, we also say Babunya. But Babunya, I think it's even more cuter than Babusa. Mr. Happy Arsonist, good evening from Australia. Awesome nickname. Good evening to you. So cute like chibi in Japan. What does chibi mean? I heard something. Chibi. Didus, yeah. Didus, that's a grandfather. Usually it's Didus. It's because like when you say grandpa, even for like smaller Ukrainian kids, it sounds too official. They want to say Didus because Didus is my cute, loved grandpa. Okay. Nathaniel Buzz, how was your experience seeing all the dog in positions in the forest within the exclusion zone? My thoughts were that they were supposed to dig deeper, okay, but not. I was surprised not only with those positions, not only with those like foxholes and things, trenches. The soil that they took out of those trenches, they put that soil into sandbags, and those sandbags were used to build their positions and checkpoints and everything else. We say Grampy on East Coast Canada. Yeah. Starsky, your opinion on Mexican food. I tried burritos. Actually, I had my favorite Mexican food restaurant in Kiev called Granny Conchita, and they were serving burritos and other things. Aaron, what would you prefer to slaying orcs, DCK or Browning? I think Browning. The reason why I would choose Browning is because we have to uh, switch to NATO weapons and ammo because it makes things easier. As for DCK, it's a cool stuff. It's a big machine gun. It's a heavy machine gun. Its range is 3,800 meters. It's amazing, but it's old, and I know that Browning is not much more modern. Some 10, 20 years, 30 years only. But our allies are using Brownings, and that's why we should use them too. NATO standards. Are there any gun laws in Ukraine for civilian use? Are there any restrictions? So currently we can use carbines, we can use rifles, we can use shotguns. We cannot use handguns, but we can use handguns that shoot rubber bullets. so those are the laws. We can use sport handguns, sport revolvers that shoot out like flubber, small caliber flubber rounds, but that's all. Our former Minister of Interior, that's the reason why I liked him so much. He wanted to introduce reforms so our people would be able to use handguns, and that will create this weapon culture in Ukraine, something that we really need. Okay, weapon culture, weapon industry, and people could have more opportunities to start their like new business, modifications for handguns and things like that. But unfortunately, our Minister of Interior died recently, last month, and his reforms were not finished, plus there's war. On the other hand, because there's war, handgun, I don't consider it a... I just heard like a bat. Wow. We have bats. So why I don't consider handguns to be a good weapon against like military invaders like Russians is because handgun is no match versus AK. And currently Ukrainians can have rifles freely, so that's a better option, of course. On the other hand, there was something very important. We cannot, of course, we cannot use assault rifles that are able to shoot bursts. I'm talking about automatic fire. And because I was a rifleman, I like rifles. If I had a choice between like a handgun or a rifle, I would pick rifle definitely. Rhonda, does Ukraine sell hand-sized pepper spray mace in stores for citizens? All kinds of them. We're selling pepper spray to deflect people, dogs, and things like that. I think that it's a more or less humane stuff. As for dogs, I saw this because, like, even pepper spray. If you spray a dog with a pepper spray, dogs have very sensitive noses, and this crap will burn forever. So we have like electroshock, like shockers, stun things, and it's enough to just produce a sound of this electroshocker, so the dogs will run away. That's something that I used back in my times when I used to cycle on my bike. AK Crowd, hi buddy. So what will replace the PM as sidearm? Ukrainian Fort and Glock. They both are cool. They are cool. I would I don't know. Like, I tried Glock, and I tried Fort. Fort is locally Ukrainian produced handgun. It's very nice. Glock, everybody knows Glock. Okay, I tried both. I liked both. Maybe Glock because 9mm by 19 is a more popular caliber on the West. Maybe just for that reason only. But PM, oh my freaking god, I hate it with all my heart. PM, and we talked about it like last year. PM is a copy of Walther PPK. Walther PPK, known as James Bond's favorite handgun, and it's not a good copy. It's a Soviet copy. It's a Soviet copy of a Western handgun. That is the reason why it gets jammed all the time. It's not precise. It's hard to even shoot yourself with the PM. And PM, personally, I decipher PM not as a pistol of Makarov. It's not a pistol of Makarov, it's a freaking Walther. I translate PM as a pistol of a masochist, because you have to enjoy pain to enjoy this pistol, this handgun. You can beat people with this handgun. That is the only, not like you shoot, but you can possibly physically to do that with a handgun like PM. But shooting, I had a PM produced in 1990, fresh, like it wasn't used. Nobody else touched it besides me. Okay. So at a distance of 25 meters, you had to aim at, somebody's liver, and then outside of this person's silhouette, okay, to hit approximately head, somewhere there. I remember we were shooting, okay? We were shooting, and I aimed at first. I aimed perfectly, guys. I'm a good shooter. I shot a couple of rounds. I came up to the target like nothing. I was like, am I shooting blanks or something? Then I decided to shoot instinctively, not like without aiming, right? Usually it works. I shot a couple of rounds, nothing. So it took me like 1 hour to realize that I should actually aim at around the lever, but outside of a silhouette, outside of a target, and then I will hit approximately around the target's head. I hate it so much. It's better to just throw it at people, you know. It will be more efficient use of this handgun. Prepper Nation, did it have adjustable sight? I don't think it has adjustable sight. I think you can adjust it with like a hammer. It's a PM. It's a very primitive handgun for like Soviet officers. And again, because it has a short barrel, it has short barrel, it has low precision, it has insane recoil. As for this small type of handguns, it has insane recoil because it's not balanced well. Oh my god. Juraj Kwak, dobry wieczór everybody. Witam. And I just recalled that I have to text you back because you sent me an email. Adjust with the file. Yes, Dodgy. Absolutely. Come to Las Vegas. You can rent automatic weapons, burn through $500 worth of ammo in a couple of minutes. That's what we like to do in Ukraine as well. Beer tasting hammer, this is the way. Exactly. But if you have if you already have a hammer, there's no point in having a PM, okay, this specific handgun. You already have a better weapon, which is a hammer. The PM was probably calibrated for vodka. It was calibrated by people consuming vodka. That's 100%. Alexandra, if you come to Austria, I could try to get you to Glock factory. Wow, really? I like Smith Wesson .357. Bob, I shot this pistol, I believe, back in 90s. Yeah, Gabby, PM is missing the K in between. Absolutely, PKM is not bad. So the difference between PK and PKM is that PK is a machine gun, right? Produced by Kalashnikov, and PKM is modernized machine gun with two barrels. One is extra barrel that you can switch if the previous one becomes like overheated or damaged. I remember we had, it was in my platoon actually, back in my days. We had some battalion tactical training, and my guys were shooting the targets out in the field. And it was like this. Our platoons would go into the field, and there were targets installed already in different, like in trenches, in positions, everywhere. We didn't know their exact location. On contact, we would have to react and coordinate our actions with with other platoons and eliminate those targets. So one of my guys, I don't know what he did. Probably he had like soil or maybe stone stuck in his PK, but I've never seen that in my life. So his barrel looked like a flower, like this, okay, because it got like it exploded. It was so funny. Not the very barrel, but the muzzle brake. It exploded, so we just found another muzzle brake and changed it. Live to hunt and fish. All I have is Russian SKS. SKS is a nice stuff. It really is. As a rifle, basically, yeah. Chris Ronin, CZ75 Shadow 2. I have a CZ rifle. CZ527. War mint barrel. Very nice. Okay, guys, I think that it's a good time to say goodnight. It's 1 a.m. in Ukraine, and tomorrow I have a meeting in the morning. Okay, I hope that you found my tonight's story interesting and exciting. I'm very happy that you that I had opportunity to tell you about legendary Ukrainian Colonel Goroshko and debunk a bit about the Ukrainian nukes. Thank you so much for being with me tonight. as always, you are awesome for supporting Ukraine. You are doing the right thing, and Ukrainians will never forget your help. Thank you so much. My name is Operator Starsky, and thanks for watching.